Homework 7, section 7.1, percents and decimals. Converting percents to fractions. This next chapter is all about consumer math, mortgages, loans, investments, etc. But before we can get to that, we need to discuss some of the arithmetic involved, specifically involving percents. So we're going to start by talking about converting percents to fractions. My apologies, this is video 1 in the series. For example, let's say I ask you to convert 60% to a fraction. The trick to converting a percent into a fraction is to understand what percent means. Percent, that red marker's not very good. Percent means per 100. So when we say 60%, we literally mean 60 per 100. So in order to convert a percent into a fraction, you just put the percentage on top of 100. That's all you have to do. Now, if the homework is asking you for a fraction answer, it's gonna want you to reduce it. So when you reduce a fraction, you just ask yourself, what can I divide both sides by? In this case, since both sides of the fraction end in 0, that means I can reduce them both by 10. So if we divide them both by 10, 60 divided by 10 is 6, 100 divided by 10 is 10. However, both of these numbers are still even, so that means I can reduce them by 2. Divide both by 2, 6 divided by 2 is 3, and 10 divided by 2 is 5. So as a fraction, 60% is the same as 3/5. Let's take a look at another example. This one involving a decimal percent. Let's convert 12.5% to a fraction. The approach is still the same. Percent still means per 100. So we would put 12.5 over 100. But it's considered bad form to have a decimal inside of a fraction. You should have a decimal or a fraction, but not both. In this case, we were kind of forced to set up a decimal inside of a fraction. So now the question is, how do we fix the decimal inside of it? And the answer is pretty straightforward. All you have to do is multiply by a number that will move the decimal to the end. How do you know what number to multiply by? You write a 1, and you write the same number of zeros that matches the decimal places. So in this case, since there's only one decimal place, I would write 1 0 after the 1, meaning that I'm going to multiply both sides by 10. Multiplying by 10 moves the decimal one place to the left. So if we multiply both sides of this fraction by 10, the top becomes 125 and the bottom becomes 1,000. That fraction looks like it can reduce. Both sides can be divided by 5. It's easy to know when you're divisible by 5 if your last digit is 0 or 5. So if we divide both sides by 5 in an effort to reduce the fraction, you can use a calculator for this. 125 divided by 5 is 25. 1,000 divided by 5 is 200. And again, this will reduce by 5. So let's do it again. 25 divided by 5 is 5. 200 divided by 5 is 40. It will divide by 5 a third time. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 40 divided by 5 is 8. So 12.5% or 12.5% as a fraction is 1/8. In general, anytime you want to convert a percent into a fraction, you can put the percent on top of 100 and then reduce. However, if your percent already had a decimal, multiply by 1 with enough zeros to move the decimal all the way to the end and then reduce.